Runcam have just released new hardware for OpenIPC. They have a new VRX module as well as a new VTX for what they call Wifilink, but this is hardware that works with both OpenIPC as well as Ruby FPV. Now, this video is going to be my review on this, but it's also going to be a journey. It is a journey of joy. It is a journey of pain. It is a story walking you through my experience with these products as they have come from the manufacturer. Now, this is actually a big video and it's part one in a series of videos because I can't get everything in one video for this, but this is going to show you how this has been for me so far. I hope you enjoy it. Please do let me know what you think in the comment section. So let's get on with it. Now, Runcam have just released two new products as part of their Wifilink digital FPV system that are compatible with both OpenIPC and Ruby FPV. We have a new version 2 VTX module, and we have what they're calling their Wifilink digital HD receiver, which is what we would call a VRX module. What's great here about these two is they are what I would class for the first time as proper, ready-to-go, off-the-shelf hardware. Whilst we have seen hardware from Runcam before, the version 1 VTX was beta at best, and their receiving option was simply a Wi-Fi adapter that you would connect into your phone. We now have two products here from Runcam that are right up there with the likes of products from Cadex with the Avatar HD system. We have a proper VTX and a proper VRX, and this is really going to allow people to dive into OpenIPC without any of the messing around on the DIY side of it. Now, before we jump in and look at these products, I got these both from Runcam. They were sent to me for free, but they haven't paid me to make this video. I also got them preloaded with OpenIPC. They did offer me the option of doing them with OpenIPC or Ruby FPV. I'm actually going to try and cover these on both of those systems. I'm going to start with OpenIPC as they have come here today, and then in future videos I'll cover them in Ruby FPV as well. Both are open source, both offer very similar performance, but there are benefits to one over the other, and we've seen a lot of development around both systems in recent times as well. So to start, we're going to take a look at the new Runcam VRX module. Now, this is available for $99. What's really exciting about this, it is a fully fledged, ready-to-go product. No DIY required, whilst obviously there might be some software setup, but what we have here is a dedicated VRX module, just like we've seen from the likes of Avatar HD and HD0. Now, when you look at this, it does look a lot more like the HD0 VRX module than, say, the Avatar HD. On the front here, you can see a fan. It's got some very similar design cues around it. I'm not going to call it a copy. That's not fair. It's similar, inspired by, but actually, that's a good thing because A, it'll be familiar to many people as well. Now, looking around this, you can see we've got all of our I/O. We've got 4 antenna ports on this for input and output, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. On the front, you can see we've got a fan. On the top, we've got a control joystick over this side here. We've got a record button. We've got our mount option here, very similar to what HD0 did, allowing you to mount it onto the front of your goggles. If we then go over to this side, you can see we've got a UART, we've got an I2C port, an SD card slot for recording with the onboard DVR, 9 to 30 volt DC power input. If I then go underneath, we've got a USB OTG port, USB-C port, as well as a mini HDMI port. There's also a tripod mount here in the middle as well if you wanted to mount it externally rather than on the front of your goggles. Also, looking around it, there are these little areas here, just like on the HD0 VRX module, that allow you to clip on antennas on the front. I don't know if this is actually fully compatible with the HD0 rail system, but it is similar and it's going to offer that same functionality. So if you wanted to clip on some patch antennas on the front, you absolutely could. Now, walking you over the main specs on the module, this Wifilink RX is designed to be used on the 5 gigs band. It supports 5.180 to 5.885. It has a maximum transmission power of 25 dBm. Yes, this module can transmit. It's not just a receiver. Both OpenIPC and Ruby FPV support single or bidirectional links, and as a result of that, this module fully supports both of those modes, and if you had it in bidirectional mode, you have up to 25 dBm of RF output. Obviously, it has a mini HDMI output for the display. In their specifications, they say this output supports 1080p 60 or 720p 60. However, the main specs for the device do say that it supports up to the 1080p 90 mode or the 720p 120. What I'm not clear about yet, and I will confirm this later, is if that's just the modes the module is capable of receiving, but the maximum HDMI output is limited to 1080p 60 or 720p 60. This is something we're going to have to test. Because this also has OTG, you could connect this to your phone as a receiver as well, and as a result of that, you may only get those fast modes via that, but that is something that we do need to confirm. As I've said, with regards to that DC power input, it is 3 to 6S or 9 to 30 volts, and it supports an SD card of up to a maximum of 256 gig. This module does also have built-in storage, 32 gigs on board for both the OS but storage as well. And as I've said already, it supports both Ruby FPV and OpenIPC. And the module itself size, they say in the spec, is 110 by 27.3 by 46, and they say it weighs 122 grams. Just showing you what else you get in the rest of the box. If we hop into the bottom under the foam, we have a box here that does include some additional accessories. So in here you will find a set of antennas. So it's great to see that they do include antennas with the kit. There are 2 stubbies. So you can see there, Runcam, left-hand circular polarized, 5.8 gigs. We then have 2 more traditional omni antennas. So these will just be omnidirectional sticks. You've got a mix of left-hand circular polarized and omni. We've got a power input cable, which takes an XT60 from your battery. As I've said already, the device supports a power input range of 9 to 30 volt DC, so basically up to 6S. And then we've got a USB-C cable, or A to C, for doing any configuration that we might need to do. Now, with regards to the antenna ports on the antennas themselves, these are RP SMA connectors. All the antennas included are rated at 2.5 dBi. You've got the Pagoda left-hand circular antenna, which is the little stubby, 2.5 dBi gain, and then you've got the vertically polarized linears, which are also rated at 2.5 dBi as well. Alongside that new VRX module, we also have the new Wifilink 2 VTX. And I have to say, this is a massive improvement over the original module. This is as finished a product that I've seen from any other manufacturer out there. You can see we have a single board VTX module with a nicely finished off heatsink on either side. Yes, there is still a fan on the top, but it's not soldered. You can unplug it off the port there on the side if you want to. We've got our MIPI cable, and then we've got our camera. Now, when it comes to the specs of this, the Wifilink 2 is based on the IMX415 sensor. This is going to allow you up to 1080p 60 and 90 on those modes, and then 720p up to 120 frames a second. The power supply input on this module is 9 to 22 volts, so it is just worth taking into account that's 22 volt. That is not 6S. If you're going to use this on a 6S setup, you are going to need to power it off a BEC, whether that be on your flight controller or an external BEC. The unit itself has a PCB size of 30.6 by 33. They say it weighs 30 grams with the fan, or 25 grams without the fan. We've got a 19 by 19 camera, which is our standard size camera, pretty much the same as what you've seen from Runcam in the past. And it does support a mounting hole distance of 25.5 by 25.5 for mounting it onto your frame. And you can see that there are little inserts down there for that as well. Looking around it, you can see on this side here, we've got an RJ45 port. This is a network connection port for doing the configuration. We've got our fan port, Then we've got our main flight controller connector down here. We'll take a look at the pinout on that a little bit more later on. We also have dedicated pads down there as well, if you wanted to directly solder. And then on this side over here, you've got your SD card input. Now, when it comes to the RF side of this, it does have two antennas. They are UFLs. They're located just under this little cover here. This supports the 5.8 gigs band up to 28 dBm of RF output, or they say 20 dBm in CE mode. Looking at that camera in a bit more detail, as I've said already, it's a traditional camera design. It has a 160-degree field of view. It's got your traditional M2 style lens. You'll have no problem swapping that out if you want to. And the VTX does come pre-fitted with a 130mm MIPI cable. I don't know what the compatibility is on these cables versus others yet. That's something I'll take a look at as we move through the video later on. With regards to mounting the camera, there's nothing silly going on here like DJI did. You've got your traditional mount on the side, so it's going to be able to go into pretty much any frame that supports a normal FPV camera. Now, when it comes to the accessories in the box, let's just look at what else they include. Let's get the rest out. There are a couple of antennas in this kit as well. So we've got these little antennas down here. You've got a UFL. These aren't going to be the best in the world. They're going to get you up and running, but I would probably advise using something more traditional that we use in FPV. But they're going to work, and there's something means that you don't have to spend any money out of the box. You then have some mounting screws, and then we've got this little network cable for the configuration. This plugs into the VTX on the side there, and then that will go into a network port on your computer. This is a bit of a faff, I'll be honest. This is about the only complaint that I do have on the design of these new VTXs. I wish we could move towards proper USB, not USB with a network controller on. We do need something a little bit better than this. However, I do believe that you can configure this via the SD card as well, so this may not be necessary. Finally, the last thing to mention included in the box is the power cable, or the communication cable, I should say. This is obviously the cable that goes between the VTX and your flight controller. They have included an astonishingly long cable in this. My God, that is huge. Just to give you a comparison, I haven't measured the length, but it is massive. That obviously plugs into the port down here on the VTX. Let's just get this the right way around. There we go. And as for the pinout on this cable, let's just compare it to the DJI one, just so you have an understanding of what it is. So if we line it up, it does appear to match the DJI style cable. We've got power, that side. The only thing I'm a little bit confused of is what the extra wires are on this one. It is possible that they're not populated. It's like it's got that S-bus wire there that the DJI one has. Yeah, looking in the manual, it turns out they were both NC. As you can see here on the pinout, you've got NC on the black and NC on the yellow. They've just simply included a pre-wired harness. Before we can use this, we're going to need to connect up our antennas. So I'm going to just undo this screw, and this will allow this little plate to come off. I'm just going to unplug the connector there. There we go. You could actually hinge it out. You don't actually need to completely unscrew it, but I did it for that. There you can see our UFLs there. So I'm going to just pop our antennas onto them, making sure we get it in the right place and not to damage anything. There we go. There's number one. And then pop on number two. There we go. That one's quite close to the side. It's a little bit difficult to get on. It's not particularly hard, but it is just one to watch. And then this has a very similar setup to you had on the Vista, actually, where that goes in under there, and you have then this top plate, which is designed to hold the UFLs in place in the event of a crash or stop them falling off. It offers not only some additional strength, but it will stop accidentally pop-offs as well if you were to have a little bit of an off. And then you can see we've got the antennas coming out there. There's plenty of space in the middle for our connection. When it comes to setting this all up, it's fairly straightforward. We're going to need power, connecting our antennas, and then connecting it to a compatible display device. Now, in my testing later on, we're going to be using these, the HD0 goggles. You can use this with any set of goggles that support HDMI input. The great thing about the HD0s is their HDMI input does support those low latency settings, and we'll take a look at that later on. And with the new firmware, not only is it a lower latency input, but you can now record on the HDMI as well. What I'm going to do though for the initial setup on the bench is I'm going to connect it to my capture card and show you the output on my capture card. We've got our VTX module connected to a flight controller. As I've said already, it's compatible with that DJI pinout, so that's nice and fine. This is my bench test setup, so we'll power it up. We've got our antennas connected. We'll get this all set up, and then we'll take a look at what we see on the image. And if we now wait a couple of seconds, we'll start to see it boot up. It does take about 30 seconds or so to power up. This unit is basically a redaxer and a receiver module in one. It is based on the same SoCs, it's based on the same software, so it has a short power up period, less than 30 seconds, and there you go. You can see it's ready to go, and it's ready to receive a signal from our VTX. Now, what's really quite nice about this is they've adapted the software that you can actually change the bandwidth and the channel frequency from the little joystick on the top. So for instance, if I push the joystick up, you can see 5200 has come up. If I press it up again, 5220, 5240. If I scroll back, you'll see it'll go down to 5220, 5200. So you can actually change the channel frequency directly from the VRX module with the little joystick by pressing forward and back. Then we can change our bandwidth mode, 20 megahertz or 40 megahertz. We can do that by moving it to the right. So if I do it once, you can see setting change to 40 megahertz bandwidth. If I do it again, settings change to 20 megahertz bandwidth. This means that the configuration on the VRX side is really nice and straightforward. It's basically power it up and it's ready to go. So all you then need to do is match the channel on your VRX to the channel on your VTX module. Now, as you've seen, the image looks good and everything is working fine. And before we move on to powering up our VTX, I just want to explain something. When we powered this up for the first time, it did a bit of one-time configuration, and that was also setting the resolution and frame rate of our attached display. Now, it does this with a script in the background and it sets it the first time, but that is like preset and locked in then from that point forward. If you were to test this like I have on a system here on a monitor at 60 frames a second, it's going to lock that in. However, if you later wanted to use that with a set of HD0 goggles or something else, you are going to need to pre-configure that, reconfigure that, and I will show you how to do that a little bit later on when I talk about the configuration on this as well as the VTX. When it comes to the VTX, this does come pre-configured as well. It is preset to channel 161, which is frequency 5805. It is preset to 120 frames a second in 720p H.265 with a maximum bit rate of 4 megabits a second. Now, all we need to do is power this on, set this to the right channel, and it should all kick in. Okay, so let's make sure we're on the right channel first of all. So we're just going to check on our VTX. No, we're not. There we go. That should be 5805. Let's just check we're on the right bandwidth. 20 megahertz. 5805. There we go. Let's power on the VTX. Now, it will take a little bit of time to connect. It's not quite as quick as I've seen on like Avatar HD or DJI. I'd say give it 20 to 30 seconds. If it doesn't connect, just make sure that you are on the right channel. I can find at times it can be a little bit finicky if you're not on the correct channel. There we go. You can see it's booting up. This flight controller is pre-configured for MSP DisplayPort, and you can see that that has already kicked in as well because this does support MSP DisplayPort now. You can see we've got the OpenIPC sort of menu system at the top, giving us CPU load and temp. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the frame rate showing up. So there you can see we are on 720p, 100 frames a second, roughly. You can see the megabits there, 4 megabits a second. I just lift the camera up to show you the rest of the room, just to give you an idea of the camera looks. Color isn't great in here, if I'm honest. It looks a bit dull compared to the color profile, but that's nothing to do with OpenIPC. That's just whatever profile Runcam have chosen. Let's have a quick look at the latency. That looks fine. That's not bad at all. We'll obviously do proper latency testing later on. This is just bench testing. But yeah, getting it set up and working really is as simple as that. Now, if you want to do more in-depth configuration and change the channel, etc., you can do it via the RJ45 port, but there is a simpler way. There is an SD card slot. We can put an SD card in that slot, making sure it is the right way round. When you then power this VTX up for the first time, so with that card in, I should say, not the first time, but with the card installed, we'll just wait. It will then place a configuration file and some folders onto the SD card, and then you can use them to do the configuration. So here is the SD card after powering it back down, and now you can see we've got our DCM files, we've got our GS key. If you don't know what the GS key is, basically there is a key on the ground station and the air side to allow them to talk. It will come pre-configured with these keys installed, but if you did want to create your own keys, you can, and that way you're not using the standard keys that do come with the system. And then you got this little file called user. Now this file, if I just bring it over here, is where you do all of the configuration. So you can see it's the WFB config. It's currently set to channel 161, which equates to, if we just scroll along, where are they showing that? That is frequency 5805. You could change it to any of the other channels if you want to. So all of the channels available are here, and you would simply change this number here. You then got your power settings, currently set to 20. I'm going to leave it at that. I don't exactly know what the recommended maximum is on this VTX yet. I'll find out about that and talk about that later on. We've then got our STB and LPC settings, LDPC. We're not going to touch them. You've got your MCS index, your available codec, H.265, and then you've got your resolution settings. So video size is currently set at 720p, 120 frames a second. And then under here, you can choose your bitrate options as well if you want to. And there's a bunch of other settings such as OSD, which are all pre-configured. You don't need to mess with these. It's all ready to go. The real important ones in here is if you did want to change these, change your channel, you then save that text file that was on the SD card, place the SD card back in, power it up with that, and it'll then take those settings and write them to the VTX module. Just something to note here on RF power as well. It comes preset at 20, which is actually quite a low level. It's below 25 milliwatts. You want to be setting it something like 55 or 58 for the maximum. 55 is the safest spot to use. That's going to give you the maximum RF power from the unit. They allow available values up to 58, as you can see there in the settings, but I would just back it down one and see how you get on. I wouldn't go straight to 58. 55 should give you decent performance. If you don't change this though, just note that you are flying at an extremely low power level. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you may need to do some reconfiguration on this, especially if you've set it to the wrong frame rate for your display, i.e. you've powered it up on a display which is different to the one you intend to use, or you intend to change the display that you're using. Now, there is a menu plugin available for this, but you can do it manually as well, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do next. Now, to put this into Wi-Fi mode, you need to press and hold the button that changes the bandwidth. Now, here, that is me going joystick right as it's looking at you there. So what I'm going to do is press and hold joystick right, and then in a second you should see a message come up on the screen starting AP mode, and what that's going to do is enable the built-in Wi-Fi on this. That will then create a Wi-Fi ground station that you can connect to on this, an access point. You can then connect to it with your smartphone or your PC, and then we can do the configuration. On your computer's Wi-Fi, you should see it pop up with something called Redaxa Ground Station. You're going to want to connect to that option. The password for this is Redaxa OpenIPC, all in lowercase. I will pop that up on the screen, and once that is connected, you can then navigate to the IP address for the adapter, which is 192.168.1. 1.4.1. This should take you to the ground station configuration page like you see here. Under this, you have options for downloading the video files that are installed on the device. We can go into our ground station editor. Under here, you can adjust all of the config files. If you want to change the resolution of your display, you are looking for the second option down, config script screen mode. If we go into here, you can see here it's currently set at 1920 by 1080 60 frames a second. If you wanted to change your resolution, this is where you would do it. You need to set it to one of the compatible resolutions. So that might be 1920 by 1080 30, or it could be 720p, which would be 1280 times 720 90, or 1280 by 720 100, and then you would save the settings. You do also have a bunch of other options under here. So you've got some scripting options for the DVR recording. You've got your Wi-Fi broadcast settings, which again, most of these you don't need to reconfigure. And under here is where you have the ability to install a new ground station key as well. Like I mentioned earlier, you have a key on the air side and the ground side, and this is where you would be able to change that too. Now, the next thing we need to do with all of this is get it into the air. As you can see, I have already built up a quad with OpenIPC. I converted this Nazgul Eco. This was based on O3. It was quite a nice, simple conversion. You can see there we've got the VTX in the back. I've decided to stick with the antennas that came with it. So they are on SMA extensions down to the VTX. It's all plugged in correctly. I've configured the VTX to the one below maximum output, and then I had to make some shims for the camera up front, but that is all done and ready to go. With regards to the goggle side, I need to 3D print a bracket, but what I've done is cheated, bodged a cable tie there to hold the VRX on the front. Something just to note that I've only just noticed actually is the fact that Runcam do not include a HDMI cable with this VRX like Avatar HD does. I'm using the little short mini HDMI to mini HDMI that you get from the Avatar HD VRX module, which is this one here. Fits absolutely perfect. I am going to make some proper brackets for this to clip it on. I've run out of sticky pads as well, so I can't even just stick it on the front. A cable tie through the fan housing is absolutely fine, but I'll get this sorted before we get out in the field. Now, all of the footage you're going to see in this video has been done on the stock Runcam software. That is OpenIPC, but it is their fork of it. There are a few differences in their fork compared to the standard one that I found, which I'll talk about later on in the video. We're also, though, going to stick predominantly to their settings. I'm not changing the bitrate in this video. I'm not messing with some of the deeper settings. The only settings we will change is RF power output, and we will change the resolution and frame rate, but everything else will remain as standard. I am going to be following up this video with a second video looking at this with more customized settings to get the best from it. What I wanted to show you in this video is how it comes out of the box. I don't have enough time in this video to show you every variant of settings, but I will talk about this a little bit more towards the end. Okay, so this is going to be my first ever flight with this new Runcam system. Now, I'm going to do this in angle mode, and the reason for that is I just want to make sure nothing horrible goes wrong. It's an existing quad, so it's not a new build, but angle just gives me a bit of extra protection just in case. Now, I'm recording the view on this on the HD0 goggles. I'm also going to set the record on the DVR module as well, which I've done there. So here we go. Field is looking clear. All good. So let's go for it. We are armed. What I just want to do is just get a bit of a feel for it. Oh, we have already gone to stutters. Oh, as you're seeing what I am seeing, I currently have this configured on the 55 setting, and we are already getting stutters. Let me just rotate it. Oh. I'm going to come back down because this is not flyable. at all. I have to be very careful here. We're back close to me. I'm just going to yaw so you guys can see what I'm seeing. Oh my God. We're literally 50, 60 yards from me, and it's completely unflyable. It's completely unflyable. Just, I am so disappointed again in this, because this has been my experience with OpenIPC from pretty much every VTX that I've tried. Everything I've tried, this is the experience that I've had. Whether it be the Runcam version 1, the Runcam version 2, I've tried it on 3 or 4 different quads. This is stock settings for Runcam as it's come out of the box. The only thing I've done is turned the power up. That's it. It is exactly as it has come from the factory, other than power level and setting the frame rate to match the HD0 goggles, which is 90 frames a second. And we're also in 90 frames a second as well. Something I am going to do is I am just going to stop the recording on the air side. I'm just going to hold it there and try and find the button with my hand. This module's hanging off the front at the moment, so it's not the... There we go. I've stopped the recording on the ground station, I should say. Oh, wow. Okay, I could hear the quad getting closer. But look. It's unflyable. This is just completely unflyable. And I don't know where I go with this anymore from trying to use this system and explain to people about it, because until I can put it in a quad and fly with it, I don't know what to say. Look, this isn't made up. I know there's going to be loads of people in the OpenIPC community disappointed. I'll probably get called a DJ shill, but I'm just showing you what I'm experiencing. I am just not even willing to go across that field. You know, this is on power setting 55. Runcam say you can run it up to 55. This is on power setting 55. The second I get over here, yeah, it's game over. I can't even use this. I want to use this. I want to be able to make content on this. I want to be able to talk to people about it, explain about it, show videos about it, show how-to videos about it. But this is the out-the-box experience. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. Yeah, I'm going to, before something goes horribly wrong, I'm going to bring this one back in here. I don't know. I really am fucked off with this. I just don't understand how we have people online posting videos showing this working amazingly well. It's the next best thing. And nothing I do, nothing I get near on this is even flyable. You know, this isn't even... it's not even like it's like, okay, it's a bit stuttery here and there, but it's fine. That's freaking dangerous. You can't fly a quad like that. You're going to kill someone. I don't know. Okay, let's reset the goggles and let's change the frame rate on the goggles and see what that does. Okay, we're going to do a second flight, and I've made some setting changes. I've dropped the power level to 40, and I've changed the channel down to channel 120, just to see if that makes any difference. Now, just looking around, we do have some lads playing football on the other side of the field, but I'm going to stay away from them. So what I'm going to do is very carefully just go this way and see how it feels. So yeah, no, it's already there. It's already starting. So the next thing we're going to try is just changing the goggles refresh rate, and we're going to drop down to 60 frames a second just to see how it all performs at 60. I'm going to say it's actually a little bit better. I couldn't fly over this far earlier. The Wi-Fi is clear here. I've actually done a scan of the site. Whilst obviously there is going to be Wi-Fi around, there's nothing here transmitting to cause the issues. But yeah, okay. I'm going to use the words borderline flyable, because this is absolutely borderline. Although I have to say, I think Avatar can look that bad at times. All I'm doing is just going around the field. Okay, the channel has definitely improved things. As you can see, I'm still in acro mode. It just gives me a bit of a fail-safe, just in case something goes wrong, because it'll just level up when I come off the stick. I'm certainly not keen on pushing it, and all I want to do is... Okay, it's definitely dropping frames, and it's definitely... Let's just go with some yaws. Ooh, yeah. Getting brave. Definitely getting a little bit brave. So it didn't like that 55 power level. 40 definitely seems better. Oh, my transmitter battery's a little bit low. It's interesting. Okay. I'm not even confident at the moment of putting it behind the trees over there. Oh, the stutters. But we are flying. We are moving. I really want to get into acro, but I'm just not confident. If something just stops, I'm going to have no idea. I got no GPS on this quad. So let's just push it a little bit. Okay. So now we've changed Wi-Fi channel. It's flyable. Latency doesn't feel particularly shocking. It's there. Okay, so now we are in 1080p 60 on both sides. And I have spotted some strange behavior with the HD0 goggles that I need to look at back on the bench. But I'm not convinced this image is actually accepting the settings change that I'm making. And I think it's defaulting back to 1080p 60. So that is what we are in now on the VTX. So let's try this again. We're in 1080-60. I'm just going to head across. Still stutters. I wanted to really see if the stutters were related to the frame rate mismatch. I think I also need to try these on the O4Xs and see what happens. Obviously, the O4Xs can only do 60 frames a second. The HD Zeros can do 90. I'm really reluctant to go over the, because I don't have GPS on this quad. I won't get it back if something goes wrong. Yeah, I can feel the latency now. That's for sure. Latency is definitely a factor. I don't want to go through there because I can't tell if someone comes randomly walking through. My spotter is over there. I haven't had a shout on the radio, but I'm always a bit dubious. Okay, I'm going to drop into acro mode. There we go. Let's get a bit more comfortable with how it feels. Now, this is literally just designed to test. Yeah, latency is noticeable now at 60 frames a second. I am feeling it. You know, this is just me feeling out how the quad feels. I have to say, there's plenty of resolution in the image when it's there. Okay, so we are back in 720p 120. So let's give this a shot. We're going to start it in acro and see how it feels. I need more angle on the camera, that's for sure. Latency actually feels all right. I have to say, I'm not really worried about the latency. Image is mushy as hell. Not convinced it's actually any worse than Avatar. I really want to go above the trees, but I don't want to risk losing the quad. It's because this is a brand new system. I just don't have confidence. But look, this is about demonstrating, does it work? I think the next goals is to build it on something with GPS where I've got a little bit more confidence. Oop. RC fail-safe. Second there. You know what? I think we're getting closer. I definitely need to sort out what's going on with the goggles. Oh, battery sagged. Nearly gone. Right, let's wrap this up. Okay, so I am down the beach and we're going to try this at a new location. We are in 1080p 90 mode. We've got 1080p on the goggles and we're going to see how this looks down here. So I'm going to arm, take it out. Now, here is obviously a location where there is a lot more risk, but it is also a completely clear environment from a Wi-Fi perspective. So I'm going to do a couple of sort of straight and level flights first of all, just to give a bit of a view of how it looks. I'll come back around. And then we'll go a lot more lower level and then have a look at how it behaves in that situation. Now, as I showed in the earlier footage, I started to get to grips with it at the field a little bit more. In the goggles, it's definitely juddery. I have to say though, it looked a little smoother in the playback footage, but that might have been the very small screen that I was using to view it in Resolve. I've done some of the editing on this already when I went home earlier. I'm back out now in the evening just to get a couple more flights on it and give some more opinions on where it is on these stock settings. I'm definitely feeling some of the latency there. Look, it's flyable, but out the box, this is not quad ready. I can imagine this being okay on wings. You know, if I do more of a wing style flight there so you can see it, but it certainly isn't proximity flying in these settings. I'm not saying it can't do it. I'm not saying there aren't situations where you might be able to tune it to do that. I've seen people flying OpenIPC on smaller quads. Oh my God, that latency then. I could hear the quad rising. I could hear it rising before I saw it on the image. And look, OpenIPC at times does have good latency, but at others, it just seems all over the place. We're going to do one last flight in a minute on a couple of other settings. I'm going to start coming around a little bit lower so I can see. See, I'm pushing it along, but I've just got no visibility at speed. It's just blocks. Whilst at times Cadex is bad, that is just worse. Let's just do that there. Again, the idea of this video is just to show you what I'm seeing. This is not how to get the best from it. This is to show you how this has worked out of the box, what state it's in today. I am going to be covering a lot more content on it in the future as we try to get to grips with it. But my job isn't to make it look better or worse than it is. My job is to show you how it is out the box, because that's what this is. This is an out the box product. And then we figure out how to improve it, how to get the best from it. But that will take time. That'll take messing around. And, you know, you can't do that on the bench. On the bench, it looks fine. But it's only once I've got it into a flight environment does it start to behave like this and look like this. And it's only in that environment do I start to think, okay, well, look, it's getting there, but it isn't there yet. What I do want to do is try it on a different set of goggles because I'm flying it on the HD Zeros. There is no reason any of the issues, sort of all the behavior I'm seeing, should be related to that. But again, I do want to just test, because you've always got to test. You've always got to try things on different sets of goggles. I actually wish I'd have brought my Skyzone 04Xs with me. What I'm actually pleasantly pleased about is overall from an RF perspective down here, and look, this is a completely clear environment. It's behaving quite well. Oh, he said, just as it broke up then, I was about to punch out. It's certainly not behaving terribly. Right, let's get it in.
We'll do another flight on 60 frames a second, and we'll see how it is. Right, we're now in theory in 720p 60, so this should be the easiest mode for the system to run with. This would be, from a processing overhead point of view, the lowest. Oh, okay, so just so I can describe what I'm seeing through the goggles, it's very jerky. I don't quite understand why 720p looks so bad in a few of my tests in 60. It's okay, I'm not expecting it to be buttery smooth like you get with sort of the higher frame rates, but I wouldn't have expected the jerking around that I get. Just your... Oh, ho, 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 ho. Okay, right. So, yeah. I'm going to share my overall thoughts on this in the studio. Whilst flying, I'm just trying to get a feel for how it looks. And this is, you know, very basic stuff. So I just had to take my hand off the controller there. I had a fly land on it and he was biting me. It's that time of night where the teeth come out. There's definitely a disconnect. I don't feel locked in at all. I tell you what I'm noticing more than anything is the sound I'm hearing of the quad is not replicated in what I'm seeing in the display, and that's a disconnect. That's latency. I'm not saying the system can't do lower latency, but what I'm feeling here, whether it's the way the frames are being delivered, because that's a latency, whether it's, I don't know what it is, but there is absolutely a disconnect between what I'm feeling. I can't go too low around the boat because there's ropes, but there is absolutely a disconnect between what I'm feeling on the sticks and what I'm seeing through the goggles. And that's what's, you know, I'm flying through it, but I'm just not confident at all like I usually would be. So I think for this one, we'll finish it off with a bit of a long run down and a long run up, and I will see you guys back in the studio.
Now, in some of that footage, you would have heard my frustration with what I was finding at the start. However, as you have seen, things evolved from that first point to pretty much where we were at the end of the video there today. Now, I need at least another 2 hours of content to keep explaining this as we move forward, but we're going to end this one here today and share with you my thoughts to now, and then in the next video we're going to be taking it forward and moving into more customization with OpenIPC, getting the best settings that we can find and then trying it then, because I have to do this in how you would receive this from the manufacturer. It would have been very easy for me to just get it in, mess with all of the software, show you it at its best. But this is a retail product, a product that is off the shelf, but it is still a DIY product that offers a huge amount of customization. But Runcam are sort of packaging this as a product, and I have to show it to you like that, and then we will step it forward. It has come a long way from where I started, and as I said, you could hear my frustrations because I simply could not get my head around why I was getting such poor performance. It was partly due to the power I was driving the amp at, but things are still not right. I am seeing a huge amount of judder in the image, and I mean, this footage really doesn't show it as much as I feel I'm seeing it in the goggles. It is very choppy. The latency is all over the place. OpenIPC, though, is absolutely capable of latency in the region of the other FPV systems. So it's not the system, it's what the setup is here. I am not concerned about latency today. My concern is getting a smooth, stable, flyable image, and that is not where I am at yet. What we now have to do is figure out how we get to that, and that's what I'm going to be doing in the next video. What I think the hardware does is really bring OpenIPC, Ruby FPV, and open source digital video into the hands of normal people, people who don't want to mess around with hardware, people who just want to buy a product. But please don't think you're getting a product like Avatar, like DJI, like HD0 that will just work. It isn't there yet. The software is capable, but I just don't think this is being delivered in a position that gets the best from it. That is what I'm going to do in the next video. I am really pleased, though, to see good hardware for OpenIPC. That is a massive start. Now we just have to get to the position where the out-the-box experience is improved. But overall, there really is not anything not to like here. I'm more than happy to recommend the hardware. I think it's really good what they've done. I'm going to be doing teardowns and stuff in future videos. I don't want to mess with this yet. I need to get this working properly before I can mess with it. And then we'll do the teardowns and the deep dives and all of that stuff. I only have one VRX. I do have two VTXs, so I might tear the second one down. But again, I'll do that in a separate video. So if you're interested in seeing that, please do make sure you are subscribed. So that's my journey so far. Part 2 will be a little bit around the corner, 1 to 2 weeks. If you found this interesting, I should say, and you want to see that, please do make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Finally, I just want to say, if you'd like to support the channel to allow us to keep making content in the future, please do consider checking out links to my Patreon as well as buying me a coffee. It is only through the support of my Patrons we're able to keep making content on this channel. And if you'd like to support us, please do check it out. I want to say a huge thank you to all of my Patreons. We would not be able to do this without your support. I'm going to leave this one there. Look after yourself. Stay safe. I will speak to you soon.